Hello, thank you for joining today for the first video for the Da'an International Zen Group. I'm excited, equally excited and nervous because I'm not a video making kind of guy usually, but with the current situation in the world, I feel like it is very worthwhile to share not just the basic philosophies and ideas of Zen and Buddhism, but more so the specific practice and direction that we have in the Da'an International Zen Group. Since I started the group a few months ago, I've really been striving to offer a version of Zen practice that has been slowly growing and developing through my life as I've been practicing myself and exploring lots of different schools of Buddhism, not just Zen. And it's tricky when you're trying to find out, what is our life really all about? Why do we endure so much suffering? What is the purpose of it all? Who are we really as people, and what is really the right way for us to relate with society, to relate with the people around us, our immediate friends and family? How should we really view goals or thoughts of the future? All of these kind of big life questions are things that religion traditionally answers for people. And when I was young, I grew up in a mostly Catholic background, Catholic, Christian, and it was not entirely bad. But as I got older and had some rather traumatic experiences in my younger years, I had what we call in Zen a big question arise. This big sense of, no, yeah, all of these things you say, all of these stories, these pretty, heaven, hell, God, all this, that sounds really lovely, sounds great, but the world I see doesn't reflect that. So what's really true? Who am I really? What is this world really? How am I really supposed to interact with others? How am I really supposed to make plans or figure out how to live in this world? In a more practical, real way. And that was a question that really has taken me a long time to slowly navigate and find answers to, because as I'll go into more depth about when I begin reading the talk notes in a minute, there are so many religions in the world, but there's been this sort of disconnect that's happened in the last few centuries, where our just human society, not just Western society, has developed so fast that a lot of the philosophies and religious ideas, the religious institutions, and the fundamentals didn't have time to adapt to that. And a lot of their structures are so rigid and they're so dependent on culture that it's very hard for them to update quickly, because everyone has this idea of, oh, we cannot change the traditions. Oh, the traditions are perfect as they are. We must not change anything, But over the last 100 years, maybe we can shorten that to 60 or so, there's been a drastic decline in people who consider themselves observant of a religion, or people who consider themselves to be faithful in some religion. And I think that says that religions are not fulfilling their basic duty to serve people in this world right now. People who are in these difficult situations in the world today, it's just not serving them. It's not offering the kind of answers, the kind of guidance that they really need. So if that is the case, I have been thinking over the years that, you know, it's really necessary to ask those tough questions. You know, what are the aspects of our religions, of our philosophies that are out of date, that are no longer useful to us? And those aspects are things that need to fade away. And we should reevaluate some of the traditional older beliefs and try to ask ourselves, how can these things be translated into the modern context, into this historical moment? And that is really my goal with the Da'an International Zen Group, is I'm trying to take the experiences that I've had over the past 20 plus years of being a practicing Buddhist and mostly practicing Zen specifically. I've considered myself specifically a Zen Buddhist for about the past 20 years, but I've been practicing with some different schools here and there, mostly East Asian schools. So in the course of future videos, you'll have plenty of chances to hear more about different perspectives on specific topics. I'll be posting videos at least once a week. And my goal is to put the Dharma talks that I give at the Da'an International Zen Group, to put the Dharma talk notes online. They'll be posted underneath these videos. So if you would like to print them out, keep them, or share them, you're welcome to do that. Please just credit me. I would appreciate that. I do put a lot of work into them. Yeah, those will be freely available to you. And this video will basically be me reading through the Dharma talk notes and maybe adding a couple additional points. If you have any interest in contacting me, you're welcome to contact me through the Da'an International Zen Group's Facebook page, and I'll happily respond to you as soon as I can. If you post comments on this video, I cannot guarantee I will respond. I will try to, but I have lots of things going on, so I will do my best. So I will go ahead and begin the first part of this talk. I'm preparing to do a bit of a video recording marathon, so I'd like to do a few videos at once. This first video is going to focus on a talk that I will be giving this Sunday on uncertainty in life and how can we follow our situation. And I'm sure that phrase doesn't make any sense maybe right now. What is following the situation? But I'll be explaining that throughout the course of the talk. And in the school of Zen and the sort of perspective on practice that I am offering, this concept is really, really important, following your situation. And especially in the world right now, when we are all trying to deal with this COVID-19 situation, it is really a critical point to understand how to see our situation clearly and know how to function, how to act correctly in circumstances like these. It's really easy to get swept away by emotions and to feel so many conflicted emotions because of the expectations that we had before that now seem to be in jeopardy. So this topic of how can we follow our situation is a really, really critical one right now. And I hope that what I share is useful to all of you. So this first talk will be the first part of 3 because it is quite a long page. It is quite a long, it is a few pages of notes. So I will be sharing just a couple pages at a time. And I hope it's helpful to you. So here is the beginning. All of the Dharma talks that I give begin with a abstract, sort of a series of talk notes that give a summary of what the contents will be. So I'll share those with you first. So what is our situation now is the first point in the summary. Where do we find ourselves in this historical moment? Second point, following desires, thoughts of the past, and dreams of the future won't save us. Third point, seeing our situation clearly helps us understand how we have gone off course. Fourth point, letting go of preferences, emotional reactions, and expectations allows us to act on that clearer understanding and do what is right for our situation. Fifth point, setting soft goals for the future is great, but remember that the future is emergent, and we can never know or predict it with certainty. And the sixth point, by following our situation and working towards soft goals, a wonderful path will naturally emerge, but it will only be visible to us in hindsight. So we must practice to maintain clarity and keep our eyes focused on the ground in front of us. So the first main section of this talk is titled This Historical Moment, and it begins with the first line of a short poem. Lost in swampy darkness, how could I have gotten here? Human history has been quite the roller coaster in recent centuries. In just the span of a few lifetimes, we have transformed our societies from relatively technologyless agricultural villages into massive high-tech cities. The wealth and convenience in the world today would have been unimaginable to our recent ancestors. But the sad truth is, our species has grown like a seedling that has been deprived of light. Gardeners know all too well that when a plant is deprived of light, like a drowning person struggling to get to the air, it will use up all of its resources to reach for even the faintest source of light. So what happens to that plant? Well, it will grow very tall very quickly, but without leaves, and it will have pale yellow stems and maybe some small leaves, but it will be tall and thin, desperately reaching up. Then ultimately, it will be unstable, and it will either break under its own weight, or it will simply grow itself to death. Desperately trying to reach the light, desperately trying to find this glimmer of light, it will exhaust all of the resources that it has and simply perish. Sadly, I think that human civilization is precisely that kind of seedling. We've grown so fast that we've reached for what we thought was a faint glimmer of light, the glimmer of a life with more material comforts. But the dim glimmer that we have been reaching for was not the life-giving light of the sun. It was just the neon glow of signs and computer screens, promising to satisfy all of our desires. Although religious leaders and philosophers helped us stay more or less directed towards the sun when our civilizations were young, as our civilizations have been thrust forward into technological and economic development, our religious and philosophical institutions just have not been able to keep up. So the faster our societies developed, the less they thought about ethics and what is right for us to do, what is right for society. Instead, the focus has been on what feels good and what we want. But that is a very dangerous road to follow blindly. So where has this road led us? Today we find ourselves in a deeply unequal world in terms of wealth, social mobility, and access to resources. We have satisfied our desires by looting the natural world and jeopardizing the very systems in nature that allow our civilizations to exist at all. Half of the world is eating itself to death in McMansions, while the other half dies of preventable diseases in slums or on the streets right next door to us. We idealize technologies that were originally designed by the wealthy, by aristocrats, to eliminate our jobs and to strengthen their ability to control the direction of society. And even though many of us have more than enough to live happily, we're always groping for something to give our lives a deeper sense of meaning. Finally, right now, our entire global civilization has been destabilized in a matter of months by the COVID-19 virus. For many of us, it feels like the certainty that we once had about our societies and our own lives has been stripped away from us. Like a powerful earthquake, the ground beneath us seems to have been stripped away. Reality is offering us a mirror in which to see what we have become. And now, how we manage the years ahead will define the lives of all those who come after us. All of this comes from the same basic problem. We have become very good at hitting the wrong target. We have been working so hard to go towards a light that we thought was the sun, but it wasn't. Instead of truly nourishing us, it keeps leading us further and further off course. The big question is, at this point, even if the full sun were available to us, would we recognize it and grow towards it? I hope that we can learn to remove the barriers that shaded us from the light and finally grow towards the warmth of the sun. Our ability to do that remains to be seen, but I try to be hopeful. That is the end of part 1. I hope you will click the next link and watch part 2, where I will be continuing with the next section called Rediscovering Our Path.